The fog, thick as a shroud, rolled in over the barbed wire like a silent omen, curling between the watchtowers and settling over the hollow bones of Auschwitz. It was April 1944, and the night air carried more than the acrid stench of burning flesh. It carried the leaden weight of despair, the chilling whispers of death, and the silent, unheard cries of countless souls who would never leave. Auschwitz wasn't just a place. It was a mechanism, a meticulously engineered system built to erase identity, hope, and life itself. But inside that monstrous machine, one man was sharpening a single, utterly impossible idea. Escape. Kazimierz Piechowski wasn't meant to survive. No one was. Auschwitz was a sentence, a sealed fate, a clock ticking relentlessly toward oblivion. But Kazik, as his friends knew him, had never followed orders quietly. Born in 1919 in Kazuk, Poland, he had grown up in a free world, one where he wore a Boy Scout uniform and believed fiercely in honor, loyalty, and the boundless courage of the human spirit. When the Nazis invaded, Kazik, barely out of boyhood, joined the resistance. And for that act of defiance, they dragged him into the very mouth of hell. He was only 20 when he first stepped through Auschwitz's infamous gates. Above him, the cruelly ironic words, Arbeit macht frei, work sets you free, mocked the doomed in wrought iron, a lie etched in the sky. They branded him with a number, 918. Not a name. Not a life. Just a unit, a cog to be worked to exhaustion, to be starved, to be utterly erased. Days blurred into a horrific cycle of agony, forced labor that tore at muscle and bone, nights filled with shrieks that split the air like razor wire. Men vanished like vapor. Some went to the gas chambers. Others to the execution wall. Kazik learned the first, brutal rule of survival: don't be seen. Don't draw attention. Every flicker of recognition, every shared glance, could become a death sentence. Yet, inside, his mind stayed furiously sharp. His soul, against all odds, stayed awake. He watched. He listened. He waited. Then came a crack in the machinery, a flicker of light in the profound darkness. In 1942, Kazik was assigned to a work detail inside the SS motor pool, a cavernous garage where the enemy stored their crisp uniforms, their fearsome weapons, their prized vehicles. It was a den of extreme danger, crawling with SS guards and symbols of absolute power. But it was also filled with something far rarer: opportunity. He noticed patterns: who arrived, who carried which keys, who left late. And there, fate, or perhaps simply the universe's capricious hand, brought him allies: Eugenius Bendera, a master mechanic whose fingers seemed to possess an innate ability to ignite life in any engine; Josef Lempart, a Catholic priest whose calm, unwavering defiance seemed to defy the devil himself; and Gustav Jaster, a fellow scout and natural risk-taker, whose eyes never blinked, even in the face of impossible odds. For men. One impossible chance. The plan they conceived was pure, unadulterated madness. Steal SS uniforms. Steal a high-ranking officer's car. Drive straight through the front gate and vanish into the vast, untamed Polish wilds. Pretend to be the very monsters who caged them. The punishment, if caught: death. Immeasurable torture. Not just for them, but for anyone who had so much as looked them in the eye, for every soul in their barracks block. But logic held no power in Auschwitz. And madness, often, was the only sane response to such a place. Over weeks, under the constant threat of discovery, they prepared with meticulous, desperate care. Kazik bribed guards with stolen bread, collecting scraps of information, piecing together the camp's routines like a deadly puzzle. Bendera studied ignition patterns and vehicle schedules, his mind a living blueprint of the garage. Lempart, with painstaking care and a silent prayer in every stroke, forged documents from shreds of discarded paper and ash, transforming worthless refuse into a lifeline. Jaster, with chilling dedication, trained his voice to mimic SS authority: cold, arrogant, exact, a terrifying metamorphosis. They stole belts. They stole buttons. They practiced being predators in a world that only saw them as prey, rehearsing their grim charade in the darkest corners of their minds. Then, the moment arrived. June 20th, 1942. Before the first weak rays of dawn, the air inside their lungs was already humming with unbearable nerves. At precisely 3:25 a.m., cloaked in shadows that felt as heavy as lead, they slipped into the SS garage. Every movement was quiet, deliberate, each breath held. The heavy door shut behind them with a metallic sigh, sealing them inside a space that felt like both a tomb and a womb. No turning back. Bandera crawled beneath a sleek Steyr 220, the kind of car reserved for Nazi elite. His fingers, though trembling, never failed. With a cough and a rumble, the engine breathed, a sound of life in a place of death. Kazik stood before a shard of mirror, swallowing down the profound horror of the black SS uniform against his skin. It smelled of blood, of sweat, of the pervasive stench of death that clung to everything in Auschwitz. But he pulled it on. He had to become the enemy. He had to embody what he hated, a chilling disguise for a defiant soul. Rifles. Papers. Every detail, every gesture, every whispered word memorized like sacred scripture. At the first gate, tension rippled through them like raw electricity. A guard approached, rifle held ready. Halt. Papers. Kazik, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs, threw the forged documents without blinking, his voice sliced ice-cold through the heavy air. Jaster, the picture of defiant insolence, lit a cigarette, unshaken. Bandera, his knuckles white, gripped the steering wheel, ready to spring. The guard studied the papers, his eyes scanning, scrutinizing. Then, a pause. Too long. The universe froze. A lifetime seemed to hang in that interminable moment. Finally, incredibly, a salute. The gate groaned open. They drove forward, one gate down. Just one more to go, the final barrier. Two guards walked toward the car, their faces obscured by shadow. Suspicion flickered across one's face as he narrowed his eyes. Lempart, in the back, muttered a silent prayer, a desperate plea to a god who seemed to have abandoned this place. Kazik leaned out the window, his voice slicing through the tension like a whip. Orders from Berlin. Prisoner transport. Delay us and explain to the Obersturmbannführer yourself. A beat. The guard stiffened, caught off guard by the sheer audacity of the command, the implied threat. Then, he waved them through. The outer gate moaned. A drawn-out sigh of metallic protest, as it swung open. Freedom, just inches away, suddenly a tangible thing. The road ahead emerged like a lifeline through the dark, welcoming trees. The car rolled forward, and with it, the last threads of a nightmare, snapping one by one. They had done the impossible. Out. They drove until the dense forest swallowed the camp behind them, until the watchtowers and wire were no more than a fading stain on the horizon. Hearts thundered in their chests, a rhythm of raw, untamed freedom. Nobody spoke. Only when the dark, malevolent silhouette of Auschwitz finally vanished in the rearview mirror, swallowed by the morning mist, did Kazik truly breathe for the first time in years. They stopped in a secluded forest clearing, tore off the loathsome uniforms, and buried them deep in the earth, a visceral act of purification. Then, they slipped into the vast Polish countryside like vapor, like ghosts who had walked out of hell itself. Kazik did not return to the life he knew. It was gone, irrevocably changed. He built another. He became an engineer, a soldier, a husband, a man who wrote, who spoke, who bore witness. But the memory never faded. Auschwitz never loosened its grip. The faces of the dead walked with him, a constant, silent procession. He never called himself a hero, for he knew the true heroes were those who never left, those whose stories were erased by the very system he defied.